Welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network, coming to you from the TeacherCast studios since 2011. Join us each week as we bring you the latest educational news, EdTech updates, and hottest interviews with today's most influential leaders in education. And now, for your host, Jeff Bradbury.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is TeacherCast Podcast, episode number 223, and today I have a fantastic topic for you, all about mentoring, all about project-based learning, and how you guys can participate in two amazing challenges with your classrooms. Yes, even if your classrooms are spread apart your school district. I want to bring on our first guest today from Stanley Black & Decker, Mr. Ray Fu. Ray, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me here.
It is so great to have you. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about some of the great things that are happening these days over at Stanley Black & Decker.
Thanks, Jeff. My name is Ray Fu. I'm the head of innovation programs at Stanley X. We are the innovation business unit of Stanley Black & Decker, and we're focused on building new ventures and products to tackle the biggest problems facing construction, manufacturing, and the industrial sector. I have a background in corporate strategy and building startups, but I'm also an amateur full-stack developer. Now, I say amateur because no one has ever paid me for a line of code, and I'm mostly self-taught using online resources and project-based learning methods. So I'm extremely passionate about today's topic and would love to continue the conversation and share my thoughts.
Well, I'm certainly glad that you're here. Obviously, we know the name Stanley and Stanley Black & Decker from the great products that the company has, but I don't think everybody knows about the great things that are happening at Stanley X and how it is infused in education and it is infused in STEM education. Where can we go to learn more? What are your websites?
Yeah, our website is stanleyx.com, and we're also available on LinkedIn as well if you would like to follow us there.
And all the links for today are going to be over on our show notes at TeacherCast Podcast. This is, again, episode number 223. Now, Ray, today we're going to be talking about two great challenges that are happening right now. One's called the Stanley Black & Decker Making for Good Challenge, and the other one's called the CITGO Fueling Education Challenge. Before we bring on our next guest, tell us a little bit about these two great challenges.
Yeah, so for this Stanley Black & Decker Challenge, we started this about 3 years ago. This is the second year that we're actually doing the Making for Good Challenge specifically. And our goal is to really empower makers. That is a core goal and mission for us as a company. And we want to be able to help makers, especially those at a young age, to demystify the process of building a product. And we want to be able to give them the resources to be able to make whatever it is that's in their imagination and really practice the methods of innovating, of making and creating and putting a product out there like any good entrepreneur.
Now, in order to put something like this together, in order to work with your teachers, in order to work with your students on these projects, a teacher can't always do this alone. They need to get some support. And I want to bring on my next guest, Mr. Mark Mitchell. Mark, how are you today? Welcome to the TeacherCast Podcast.
Jeff, I am doing great on this Tuesday in November.
It is great to see you. It is great to have you on here. Now, you have an interesting story to add to everything that we're going to be discussing today, because you not only have had the opportunity to work with these programs, but you've actually been a mentor to some of the students that have been doing things like this in the STEM fields. Talk to us a little bit about your expertise here and why was it important for you to become a mentor to young students?
Oh, Jeff, down the road from me, just a few hundred yards, or maybe less than that, there is a great family, the Denton family. And Lydia Denton is quite an entrepreneur. In fact, the whole family is. Cubby's kids are just fabulous. And so Lydia was working on this project for a car safety seat because she felt so bad about hearing about all these injuries that occur because children are left alone in the car by accident. And particularly in the summertime here in North Carolina, it can get up in the upper 90s, sometimes the low triple digits. And if you forget that your child is in the back seat of your car just for 10 minutes, it can create a serious injury, sometimes worse. Lydia was concerned about this, and so she started investigating ways with her brother and her sister to create electronic sensing and alerting devices that would be transmitted to cell phones and smartwatches to alert people that they left something in the car, namely a child, and this could be triggered to pets and other items. They research technology. I help them research some patents. My background is engineering, physics, nuclear physics, and I've been in aviation for 28 years, retired from that in 2010. But I am still an inventor. I'm an author of a few books, and children that want to learn are so valuable, so precious. You can't stop them from learning. You need to feed their learning. You need to assist the teachers and feed that hunger so they can learn, be inventors in their own right, be entrepreneurs in their own right. And just as Ray was saying, it's wonderful to see the young people today, which will inherit this planet, want to learn and understand the building blocks of how everything works and why the building blocks work together. And that's what Lydia does so well. She is truly outstanding at her interpretation of science. Her mental logic is phenomenal for someone her age. She asks questions that are just so intuitively logic bound that it is phenomenal and such a pleasure to help someone learn like that.
Mark, I love that story, and it always goes back to this thing I was told way back when, the question is, what is the job of a teacher? And some people say the job of a teacher is to teach, and some people say something different. I believe the job of a teacher is to inspire. And that's exactly what you have been doing to her. And I'm sure to many people throughout your years working in aviation. You said that's an amazing profession. Ray, talk to us a little bit about this. I mean, here we are, we have these students, they have an idea, they want to share it, but we are living in a usual time right now where students can't necessarily stand next to each other and work. They can't necessarily be seated in a group and expected to produce something with their hands. It's possible, but it's difficult. When we're looking at things like project-based learning, when we're looking at challenges such as these that we're speaking about today, is it possible to do these things? How is it possible to do these things? What advice do you have for any teacher looking to really keep that status quo and up the bar despite everything that's going on?
Yeah, that's a terrific question. And, unfortunately, I am not an educator myself, like Mark. So I can only really, give the perspective from someone who, also works in this remote environment, but also have kind of gone through that phase of learning where I really only found things interesting when they become project-based, and the theoreticals just never really worked for me. For example, I said earlier that I am a amateur full-stack developer, but that's only really half the story. I actually started coding when I was much earlier, when I was 11 or 12 years old. And I got started when I discovered a pile of my dad's old, Java books and just started building things. And I loved it. It was amazing. I remember spending a whole afternoon, on one exercise where they asked you to try to, programmatically draw a heart, but you only really had, as part of the programming library, very basic shapes like circles and triangles. I spent literally an entire afternoon trying to figure out how to make a heart out of that. And, when I was 11 or 12, I thought that I was probably going to do STEM for the rest of my life. I was probably going to be an engineer at some point. And then by the time I got into high school, I had the chance to actually take some formal classes in computer science. And let me just say that I completely lost interest in it by the end of it, because those classes really just focus on theories. They focus on algorithms, and they focus on preparing me to answer questions that are more suited for exam than a project or, a potential job down the road. So, by the time I got to junior year, I was completely not interested in STEM anymore. And it wasn't until much later in life when I, started learning things by myself and working on these projects that I kind of found that passion again. So for me, I would say to educators that their competition in today's world, it's not, to STEM educators specifically, their competition is not literature class. It's not PE class. It's not even working from home or COVID. It's really other activities that give instant gratification to students, whether it's video games or TikTok videos or whatever it is that students are into these days. And their challenge is making STEM education appealing and be able to teach it in such a way that it's digestible, and being able to offer quicker feedback with a more immediate sense of accomplishment, so that students find it just as interesting, especially in a remote environment, as to all the other things that they have access to. And lastly, potentially being able to tie into marketable skills that the students will use one day. And I think this is one area where the, Discovery education programs are doing a tremendous job today. If I look at the skills that both of my mentees, Saksham and Shivam, have picked up over the past couple months, things like collaboration in a semi-work setting, conducting voice of customer interviews and synthesizing pain points from their customers. These are real skills that we as a team, as Scaling use every single day. And Discovery Education is already helping to help them build that toolkit today. And these aren't, your high school seniors. Shivam is only a freshman, and he's already getting exposed to this toolkit of skills today, and it's absolutely incredible.
You mentioned a couple of things there that are very important, which is when you're bringing this stuff into your classroom, to your curriculum, keep it tight, but also keep it goal-centered, but also make it real-world focused. Again, having a challenge that is something that they can see, that they can hold in their hands, that's tangible. Mark, when we're looking at this, Ray also just said, keeping it real world centered. How, when you're mentoring people, are you bringing in your experiences from aviation, from your background? How are you able to bring that in to inspire the students that you're working with?
From just like STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, everything is based in the building blocks of the basics. You must understand and have truly complete command of the basics in order to progress in learning. So the teachers, from the standpoint of the basics, they are critical in having the students learn the basics and test the students for their command of the basics. Now, when you go beyond that and you start in project focus, you apply the basics, you let the basics grow in the mind of the student, and the student has to have some level of intuitiveness in creating something better, as Ray has mentioned. It's looking at what is and asking, how can we make this better? How can we make this more efficient, more effective, more environmentally friendly? How can we build on the planet that we have and make the planet better as well as ourselves?
So, Mark, obviously, as we're looking at working with our students, as we're looking at giving them their challenges, we have two great challenges available to us. Mark, talk to us a little bit about the CITGO Fueling Education Challenge.
CITGO Fueling Education Challenge closing date is March 22, 2021. Grades 5 to 8 participating as individuals or groups of 2 to 4. Students in grades 5 to 8 are asked to identify a community problem and submit a 1 to 2 minute video discussing a solution aligned to one of the 4 following United Nations Sustainable Development Goals: safety and well-being, quality education, sustainable cities and communities, and life on land.
So it's great to see that there's an amazing challenge here for students in grades 5 through 8. Now, Ray, there's also another challenge available, the Stanley Black & Decker Making for Good Challenge. I know that's going to be closing sooner on January 28th of 2021. Ray, talk to us a little bit about that challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I mentioned earlier in the podcast that this is actually the second year that Stanley Black & Decker is working with Discovery Education on the Making for Good Challenge. And what we are asking is students from grades 9 to 12 form teams of either between 2 to 4 people, or they can work individually because of COVID, and we want all of them to stay safe during this time, and be able to develop a unique product idea or design solution that can meet an underserved societal or environmental need. And for Stanley Black & Decker, we are here to provide them with all the tools, with all the methods, processes, and mentors that they need to make this idea a reality, because ultimately our mission is to help empower makers, whether they are, between grades 9 to 12 or much, much older. And we would like to invite every single student to join before January 28th and be able to submit a video between 60 and 90 seconds outlining their solution and how it meets the need they're actively trying to solve.
For both of these challenges, the entry point is extremely important here. For the first one that we mentioned, it's a 1 to 2 minute video. And if your students are hybrid, that works out perfectly. You can still put that together. And especially with the Stanley Black & Decker Making for Good Challenge, 60 to 90 second video. I mean, if your kids are at home, if your kids are in front of you, you guys can easily make these videos, submit it. All of the links are going to be on our website. You can, of course, learn more over at fuelingeducation.com. But again, all the links are going to be over on the TeacherCast Podcast, episode number 223. Guys, as we're looking at this and we're moving through the end of the calendar year, as we're moving into the spring here, mentorship is vitally important. Getting students connected with the real world, just like Mark, getting students connected with the community that's out there, making these connections, that's really important. Let me ask you here, Ray, why is it important for these different connections to happen in education?
Yeah, I think if you look at the types of projects that these students are working on, a lot of them are very science or engineering heavy, and they are complex, they're challenging, and it's sometimes really easy to lose sight of the goal or to get deflated. And in these situations, it's often very helpful to be able to find a mentor who can not only coach you through the process, but also just to have someone to bounce ideas off of, and at the very least be able to encourage you through that entire process. Looking back at the previous winners of the Making for Good Challenge, the 2 high school students that I mentored, Shivam and Saksham, the product that they put together was absolutely incredible, and it was super complex. It required 3D scanning, 3D printing, and using low voltage electricity in order to cure back pain. A problem like this doesn't get solved in a vacuum. A solution like this doesn't get built in a vacuum. So for us, when we first brought them on as mentees, we as an organization tried to introduce them to the broader Stanley Black & Decker ecosystem. We have a very robust team, both in Connecticut as well as out in California, who are focused on 3D printing. We have a makerspace available where they'll be able to access tools, resources, people who have been doing this for years, who can impart the type of knowledge or even just the type of guidance that they might be looking for to bring a product like this into reality. So I think it's an absolutely great opportunity for any students, regardless of what stage they are at with developing their idea, to submit an application and be able to participate. I think it's a fantastic opportunity, not only for them, but as mentors, as companies supporting these programs. It's a terrific opportunity for us as well to get exposed to the next generation of makers and just learn about how they think about problems and the kind of optimism they bring to the conversation.
I think it's important when we're working with our students of any age, have them think as big as possible. Often I think when we're looking at these projects, it's what do I know? What do I have available? What can I reach for to build? But when we're working with a company like Stanley Black & Decker, and I'm looking at pictures here of the amazing center that's just up the road from me here in Hartford, Connecticut, really the sky is the limit here. These students can build and design and think anything that they're looking to do.
Right, absolutely. And, for these students, the one thing that always blows me away is the amount of optimism they bring and how every idea is possible. I think as adult entrepreneurs, we sometimes lose sight of that. Reality sets in and we think about problems in terms of their constraints. We weigh the trade-offs. We think about decisions in terms of upsides and downsides. And we sometimes lose sight of that goal, and these students, they don't. If you talk to any of them, they do not lose sight of that from the day that they submit their application to every conversation. They keep going back to that idea because they're really motivated and they want to actually make a difference. It's incredible.
So again, we're going to talk about two different challenges here. All of the different links are on our website over at TeacherCast Podcast, episode number 223. If you're working with students in grades 5 through 8, we have the CITGO Fueling Education Challenge, which again closes in March of 2021. And if you're teaching students of grades 9 to 12, we have the Stanley Black & Decker Making for Good Challenge. And of course, that closes on January 28th. To get your students involved in this, it's real simple. All you have to do is to complete a 1 to 2 minute or 60 to 90 second video. All the details are on our website. And guys, I want to say, first of all, thank you so much for spending your time. Would love to have you guys come back on in the springtime after everything happens and after we have some winners and finalists and stuff like that. Guys, I would love to invite you guys back onto the show. So Ray and Mark, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been a pleasure.
And if you guys have any questions about this, again, check out everything over at TeacherCast Podcast, episode number 223. And if you'd like to participate, just let us know. You can always find us over on Twitter. Let us know that you heard our show, found the challenge, and activated your students to expand their possibilities. So on behalf of Ray and Mark, Stanley Black & Decker, CITGO, and everybody here at Discovery Education and TeacherCast Educational Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you guys to keep up the great work in your classrooms and continue sharing your passions with your students.
You've been listening to the TeacherCast Educational Network, hosted by Jeff Bradbury. Please reach out to the show with all of your questions on Twitter at TeacherCast or online at www.teachercast.net. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And please take a moment to write a review in the App Store.